Hi, friends! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ashley Ariana, joined by the wonderful Marco from Clutch Team Sports here today. Hi, Marco. Where are you joining us from? Tell everyone what's
How's
been
it going?
going
How's it
on.
going, Ashley? I'm actually here at my alma mater, Stan State. Was gonna use their Wi-Fi and everything, which I've been using all day, and then out of nowhere, come to the library and not able to use it. So I'm streaming off my phone. Thankfully, my phone allows me to use my mic, or else I would probably sound terrible audio-wise. So hopefully, you guys could hear me. Um, a lot different because I'm holding my phone and holding a mic, so I don't have hands to look up any kind of statistics. So don't ask me any statistic question, or I'm gonna be
Oh
screwed.
no! Oh no! Oh no! Maybe you could, like, if your computer set up, you can set up your phone on that. I don't know, but I don't want to mess it up because you look good. But everyone in the comments, let us know if you can hear Marco, if he sounds good, looks good. I think he might be frozen right now.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm here.
Um, okay, perfect. Um, but I have a lot of fun things that I want to talk to you about. Some of them are like kind of silly. I didn't tell you about it, but I just listened to someone. But I'm like, oh, we should save that for the end of the show because it's not like a important conversation. But is today opening day for the Giants? I kind of was confused about that because I know opening day for like baseball was a couple days ago, right? But I think it's the home opener, maybe. And Marco's gone. Oh, Marco's coming on. Oh, and he's back. Hi, Marco. We just like to keep the people guessing here.
All
You're
right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can. I can.
All right. Perfect. We should be good. The rest of the show, we should be good. I tried doing something, but it didn't work.
You gotta experiment, you know what I mean? Jesus says Niner gang, start drafting now to build for the future because these players will be too expensive. Um, Maybe that will take us into what my headlining topic is, and then that we can talk more about the draft and aggressiveness and stuff in a minute. But I actually was just reading a Mike Silver article, and he was pretty certain that the 49ers are not done negotiating with Brandon Aiyuk and are still very open to trading him. That there could he even said that there's a strong possibility that he could be traded during the draft, depending on how their draft board is looking. Mike Silver said that that might even be a more like plausible scenario than him getting traded prior because they might just do something like on the move, especially depending on which position groups end up getting pushed down to the later, first and second round. Being you and I have talked about this, the tackles are probably going to be the first guys off the board, all the quarterbacks say all as well. It's going to push different position groups where there's, good skill sets farther down the draft than they should be. Now, he said something kind of interesting where he said the 49ers are looking at it in the way of basically, do we want to extend Brandon Aiyuk or do we want to get rid of Deebo Samuel and George Kittle after next season? And that they're really looking at that kind of as a pair where if they do extend Brandon Aiyuk, it is pretty much solidifying the goodbye Deebo and Kittle. By the way, you look really clear right now. So I don't know if you changed anything, but it's working out. Um, did
Actually,
you think
I did. I my phone was the brightness was low, so I realized I was like, wait, let me higher the brightness. Maybe that'll help.
there you go. Do you think that there there is a because I feel like a lot of people have been talking about that. Do you think there's anything to that to the scenario that if they do extend Brandon Aiyuk, then this really is the last year of this core being together, and that they're going to have to move off of both Deebo Samuel and George Kittle? I know they've been looking. There's been lots of rumors, right? They've been looking for tight ends. They obviously were trying to get a tight end earlier and ended up not working out. And he stayed with the Lions. Now that was tight end too. But do you think it's possible? I think we've talked a lot about it being Deebo Samuel or Brandon Aiyuk, but it was interesting to hear Mike Silver say the 49ers front office are really looking at the duo of both Kittle and Debo having to leave if they bring in Brandon Aiyuk for the long term.
Well, I think even with when you bring in Brandon Ayuk, I think it's you essentially have to get rid of Debo Samuel anyways. Next year, I don't see the Niners paying Debo how much is going to be. He's going to be getting paid next year anyways, regardless of the situation. So when you're looking at it cap wise, it probably is going to be. Well, if you keep Brandon Ayuk, you got to get rid of both. And but this has been something that the 49ers caused, right? Restructuring George Kittle's contract over and over and over again puts his cap hit to be so high that you can't really keep him. If they would have never have kept restructuring his contract, they wouldn't have had this issue. So for the 49ers, this is something they caused, not something that is being caused because of Brandon Ayuk's price tag.
They have a habit of doing that, like asking guys to restructure their contracts and then making the back end of their contract so large that they don't really have the choice except for to let them go.
Yeah, so it's a kind of you can remember the situation when the 49ers decided to keep Armstead and Ward over DeForest Buckner.
Yeah.
So that was a different situation because I know like a lot of people are like, oh, it's gonna be a similar situation. That's a little different because Buckner wanted money up front. Now with Brandon Ayuk, you could essentially structure it where he
Backload his
doesn't.
contract. Right?
Yeah, you could give him money later where the cap increases, so it's not as bad as a DeForest Buckner situation because Buckner wanted money up front. He didn't want to do the backloaded contract like every other player the Niners do. So it was more so everything would be.
Is there a positive or negative to doing that? Like you end up getting the same amount of money in the end no matter what, right? Or
Yes, but no in the same situation, in a similar situation, because it allows a team to. So based off of my understanding, I'm not great with the cap. I'm terrible with the cap when it comes to cap space and everything like that. I lean on other people for cap numbers. But based off my understanding, when it's money up front, what it allows you to do is you have a higher cap hit. Um, so in your later years, you have a lower cap hit. But I'm not too sure on how Buckner wanted his deal constructed, if that makes sense.
I was seeing this in the comments. Someone says San Francisco. I would expect a return. Sorry, I would expect a return similar to AJ Brown or wide receiver Tyreek Hill. San Francisco would have 3 offers for Brandon Ayuk.
So I think
I'm sure they have a ton of offers.
The offers made that he's referring to may be the offers that have been speculated in terms of the Jaguars, the
Steelers.
Saints, as the Steelers, not Saints, sorry. And I don't know what other team he's referring to, but the Niners have no offers on the table for Brandon Ayuk. I'm gonna say that right now, and I've asked multiple times. I asked about the Jaguars one because that one blew up first. I asked about the Steelers one.
They have no offers? That's kind of interesting.
Because they're not. He's not on the trade block.
Yeah,
it's different.
I mean,
It's different.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So for example,
and didn't John Lynch kind of say that? Like he was like, "We're not." He was like, "These rumors aren't true. We're not trying to trade him."
See, he mentioned it. He mentioned it as well. But when I asked the guy, like, what I had before Lynch had spoke, I asked about the Jaguars one, and he like I got laughed at. Like, no, like we have not taken any offers from the Jaguars. The Steelers one, I asked about, like, no, we have not taken offers. He's not on the trade block, so we're not taking any offers. Teams have called, yes, but every time they call, we say
as
no.
they should.
Like, he's not available. Like, so I don't know where the offers are coming from, or where the speculation of the offers are coming from. Obviously, the Niners, once it gets to that situation, they'll start calling teams like, hey, like we may not be able to re-sign them. But I don't think they're worried about that. I think is at the end game, the 49ers know their situation. They understand that Brandon Ayuk's going to cost $27 million. Like he's going to be 28, $27 million of a player. That's how good he is. That's where the market is. If you want an elite receiver, that's what you got to pay.
He's young. He's on the ascension. Yeah.
And if you really want to keep your franchise quarterback happy and playing as a franchise quarterback, you're going to have to Debo and Jordan eventually. Like George Kittle would do an extension. Oh, I might have been lost.
You were.
Am I still
But you're
here?
back now. Yeah.
Okay, that was like a second. Cool. And so it's interesting with Brandon Ayuk. I don't think the Niners are planning on trading him. I don't think that's an option right now. I think the true option is negotiation, get a contract done.
Or
Understand that.
Europe?
What was that?
Could they make him pay on that or play on that franchise tag? I kind of don't
So
understand why
he's
they.
not on a franchise tag. He's actually on a 5th year option. So the way the fifth year
That's what I
the
mean.
way
Yeah.
yeah the way a first round pick works is they have a 5-year deal, uh, and the team has to pick up the 5th year in that 3rd year after the 3rd year. So the Niners obviously they picked up his 5th year option. He gets paid at a higher rate, which is fully guaranteed, 14 million fully guaranteed. So he's at a better rate than most players or people in that 5th year. So I wouldn't necessarily say he's being traded. I don't think that's happening. I know a lot of people are looking at it as, oh my God, Brandon Ayuk situation. That's not happening. Like I don't see it happening at all.
Okay. I also don't see it happening at all. I don't understand. I think that if they wanted to scatter, we got a comment in here that says like the 49ers like to stagger some of their contracts. I could see them depending on what Brandon Ayuk is willing to play for. We're having some technical difficulties with Marco here. I don't know if he knows that his screen went black. There you are.
Sorry, I was trying to adjust something. I need my screen to block. I could hear you though. Sorry about that.
Okay, good. Um, I forget what I was saying. Uh I think what it comes down to is like, what is Ayuk willing to play for? Because if he's kind of in the like, what does he want right now? Because maybe I think he's in the situation where he either has to accept whatever the 49ers end up offering him, or he has to agree that he's going to play on that 5th year option and play for that in order to, I guess, eventually get a higher contract. You know what I mean? So I think really the 49ers are in a position where they can kind of offer him, whatever. I assume, I think they like him. I think they're going to want to reward him and be reasonable. But I don't think Aiyuk has that much power right now. I think for them, they can say, we're going to offer you this contract, either take it or you can play on this 5th year option. So
Well,
Aiyuk doesn't
and I
have that
think
much
he doesn't
power.
necessarily have to take the offer, right? Like they could lowball him. He could just be like,
But
you know
then he
what,
would
I'm gonna
have to
bet on
play on that
myself.
5th year option, right?
Yeah, and I think he's willing to do it because he knows he's gonna have a great year. He knows in order for the Niners to get back to the Super Bowl, they got to go through
Yeah.
him offensively in the passing
And
game.
couldn't they just extend him after that then?
So he would be a
Next
free
year?
agent, but they would have to either franchise tag him or he would have to sign at probably a higher price than he would want this year.
But I think potentially they could be willing to do that if their goal is to go all in for the 2024 season.
But how is it? But it's not necessarily. So the thing is, it's not necessarily going all in this year because you're not getting that money for free agency. Like there's there's no benefit of not extending Brandon Ayuk, if that makes sense. Like you're not gonna sign anyone this off season now. Like there's no big names out there that you could go out and sign that makes your team better, if that makes sense. So when you look at the Brandon Ayuk situation, what you're pretty much doing is just waiting on paying him. Like this is essentially what you're doing. Like when you extend him, it'll save you 10 million in cap space this year. So if you were all in, you would have wanted to have done that before free agency. Extend him before free agency, use that 10 million towards a player.
Why is it that both the John Lynch and Jed York, and then also I think Brendan Ayuk on that Nightcap podcast he went into, both of them kind of talked about how real negotiations weren't going to start until after the draft.
I think because they understand that the process of how negotiations truly work with the Niners don't start until post draft, anyways, with any of their big name players. Gives them a true time to, hey, we actually have the time to sit down and actually negotiate with you. We're in the middle of draft prep. And I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing is like people don't understand is like Niners truly are in
The
draft prep.
49ers have like their focus is on something else right now.
Yeah, like the draft takes so much time, and I think that's the biggest thing the Niners are worried about right now.
That's kind of interesting. And I mean, I will say with Deebo Samuel, if you remember when he was going through his contract negotiations and kind of freaking out behind the scenes and a little bit, um, in front of the scenes, depending on how you want to talk about what he did. It came out later on when he did that little documentary that the 49ers actually gave him an initial offer, which was a super low blow, but they did that really early on in the offseason. I think it was 17 million, and then basically had no contact with him for months later. Like, I think it was in July was when they started doing contract negotiations with him. So basically he was just sitting on a $17 million offer, considering that he basically got, $24 million. It's like a huge jump. But I wonder if they've done something like that with Aiyuk. It sounds like they did something similar with Kittle. Their initial offer was super low. Now, I think when we heard about Kittle's contract, we assumed that it was like, okay, really low offer. Then he's like, no, I want to go here. And it's this back and forth. And at least as a fan, I assume that that's kind of like a fast, back and forth. But maybe if we're learning from Deebo Samuel, maybe actually what they do is they low blow you, and then they kind of go dark for multiple months and kind of make the player sweat a little bit. And I could see them doing that right now with Brandon Aiyuk. So maybe they've already given him an initial offer and then said, we'll work on this after the draft.
And that could be what they've done if that's what they did with one of your best players. Obviously, they did that with that Debo. I do remember that during that, like, they talked about how he got offered really low. He got upset. That's why he requested the trade. And if they did that with Brandon Aiyuk's not the one to do that with.
Yeah, and I think like him requesting a trade thing was he maybe like, how I'm just saying I think maybe he thought it's possible that the initial offer actually isn't what upset him, but it's because I think most players understand, like, we're going to go really high, you're going to go low, and we're going to meet in the middle. But I think for Deebo, what bothered him in that, like, he did like a documentary little thing after, if you remember, I watched it. And he talked about the hardest part was like this dark period where he was like, is this just it then? We're not negotiating. We're not doing anything. And, Deebo Samuel kind of expressed like, I didn't feel wanted because I didn't feel like I was a priority, and he wanted his money now. Now, it does feel like Brandon Aiyuk is a little bit less emotional. I don't know if that's the right word, than Deebo, but it feels like if they did do that with Brandon Aiyuk, he might kind of understand like, hey, we're going to start this later.
Yeah, and I think you can do that in a way with Debo because he's not the greatest route runner. Oh, might have lost my signal.
You did, but it's okay.
Am I back? I'm back.
You are. Can I ask you a childish question?
All right, cool. Yeah.
When you were a kid, did people do the like Marco Polo thing? Because I keep thinking about it.
They still do.
Every time you go away, I'm like,
yeah, like you just did it. So.
I'm sorry. I know that probably gets old.
Or like when people would be playing like.
That's like a good way for a girl to like flirt with you. Like if your wife, that could be like a.
She never did that though. Wanna know why?
You could be like, I'm the polo to your Marco.
You know why she would never do that? Wanna know something crazy? So this is funny. So her dad's name is actually Marco.
Oh my god!
Her brother's name is actually Marco. My dad's.
Why does she have so many Marcos in her life?
My name's Marco. My dad's name is Marco.
Really?
And what's even worse, worse is we all have the same middle name.
What's your middle name?
Antonio.
Oh, I like Antonio. Antonio's a good name.
So like
all four of us. So
that's why Anthony short for? Never do that.
That makes sense. But then I was gonna. I have an inappropriate thought that I'm not gonna say, but your mind could. But anyway, really quick. Is Anthony short for Antonio, or is that
so? Not? Anthony is not short for Antonio. Anthony is the English version of Antonio.
Oh, okay. I like Antonio.
So Tony would be the short version of.
Oh, that makes sense. I like that. Okay. I really like Antonio. I'm on like weird pregnancy TikTok. I don't know why. I'm not trying to have a baby anytime soon, but like I think it's because I like cooking videos.
You're gonna put that bad juju in the air. My wife is probably listening. She's probably gonna be like, "Oh my god, please don't put this energy out there where I get pregnant." So just saying, like we can go back to football talk because I don't want that energy out there.
That's what we're doing.
But what were you saying about the TikTok you're on?
I think the reason, like, I think there's like a correlate. I watch a lot of food TikToks, and then there's like a lot of pregnant women who cook, and I think that that's how that. But now I'm thinking about baby names, and I like Antonio. But I'm like a really good. What do you think about? I like for girl names. I like Tony for a girl would be cute. I like boy
That's what they
names
call
for
me.
girls.
That's what my family calls me.
Tony.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I like that. I think it's because my dad's name is Lee, and then Ashley, uh, and I went through like a phase where I liked people to call me Lee. Like I was like really preppy in high school, and I thought it was like cool to be like called a boy name but dressed really girly. I don't know. Anyways, um, someone says no volume, but I can hear you fine. So they might be starting late. Um, Brandon Ayuk's camp already loses leverage because he's under contract. I agree, and that's kind of what I was saying. Um, but I
I
guess
mean,
more of my
it's a loss
question.
of leverage, but I also think it's not a loss of leverage because there's going to be a team out there regardless that'll be willing to pay him.
True, 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 true. So he like you were in and out. You left and you came back, and it was. I think we're fine. Don't. This is cool because people need to like focus on the show. They're like, is Marco going to be here or is he not? Uh, my question with you though, because I think we've talked about the Brandon Ayuk topic. We know the 49ers value him. Both Jed York. Jed York basically said, if there was no salary cap, which I think you're kind of calling his thing BS because he's blaming the salary cap for not already extending Brandon Ayuk. And you're saying, hey, actually, that would have saved you money. But that aside, Jed York, is that not true? Do you remember when he said that in Orlando? He was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, if it wasn't for
He
the
did
salary
mention
cap, we
something.
would have already extended Brandon Ayuk." Well, you would have saved money, so
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense.
he did mention when it came to the salary cap that he would want to. But the thing is with Jed York is he even mentioned that he's willing to pay Ayuk. So it's like when Jed York says it, it's like, okay, well, guess what? If your owner's saying it, it's gonna happen. Like I don't see him letting a top guy walk if that truly makes sense. Um.
Exactly. So
Oh, shout
I
out to
do
Jason.
think that
His speakers turned off on his own. I hate
I
when that
saw that.
happens, man. I've been having internet. I've been having technology trouble all day. I've technically been working. My phone network doesn't work, which is
This is
crazy.
random because you're like in a weird angle, but if you don't move at all, I can hear you and see you great.
Oh, perfect. I
I don't
guess
know
I'll
what
just
you're doing.
be looking this way.
Okay, but what I was gonna say more so because I do think like you listen to Kyle talk in Orlando, you listen to Jed, you listen to John. It sounds like for them, the way that they're and obviously, I think they said like we're never going to trade Buckner and then traded him. So you can take everything they say with a grain of salt. But it did seem like they want to extend Brandon Ayuk. I just found Mike Silver's um article where he was kind of questioning and saying, hey, like really pay attention during the draft because that might be a last minute time where they move on from him. But I thought it was interesting that he was kind of saying goodbye to both Deebo Samuel and George Kittle in that same grouping because I often assumed that they would have enough money to have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk for this year, but then want to move off of Deebo Samuel's contract when they have a lower dead cap going into next year. Now, the George Kittle thing is kind of confusing to me. To be honest, have assumed that George Kittle would probably retire a 49er just with the amount of pressure they have on him. They don't have, obviously, I think they're going to look in the draft to draft a tight end. But from the guys that have been looking at in free agency, it feels like they've been looking for tight end twos. If we look at the tight ends that they drafted last year, no one of George Kittle's, caliber who could replace him. So I found it kind of interesting that Mike Silver was saying if Brandon Aiyuk is around, then George Kittle would be off the team by 2025. When we're talking about Brock Purdy, now obviously also Kittle is older, but then you look at Kelsey. Kelsey's much older than Kittle and still killing it. And when we're talking about the future and Brock Purdy, yes, Brock Purdy has an amazing connection with Brandon Aiyuk, but George Kittle has had a resurgence with Brock Purdy as his QB. So I do you think that Mike Silver is right on that assumption that if they extend Brandon Ayuk, it's an automatic George Kittle's also going to be off the team in a year? Ooh, 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 ooh. You guys think Mark was coming back? I feel bad because I told him to stay right there. Thought he was doing good. Oh, and he's back.
See, I listened to you and kept it in the
I
same exact
know.
spot, and it didn't work.
I did it wrong.
No, but I
Do you
agree with
think?
you in terms of
Yeah.
I was able to hear everything you were saying. I don't think it
Perfect.
impacts Kittle. I truly don't. I don't see a scenario where if you sign Brandon Ayuk, it causes both Kittle and Debo Samuel to be gone.
Neither.
Now, the only way I could see Debo or the Kittle being gone is because the 49ers decide to extend Debo, they decide to extend Banks, they decide to extend um, those kind of guys. So it's one of those
See,
ones
this
where
this brings me
um,
into I literally wrote this down and I didn't I almost messaged you about it, but I didn't because I was listening to your show that you did with Grant, and I saw you say that you'd rather them. Or I don't know if you phrased it in this way, but you guys were talking about extending a cornerback and um, extending Demo. Look, I have it written down. Like I wasn't even going to make this a thing. It was just like a note for me in the background. I want to talk O-line and corner, but right under that, I have a little note where I wanted to ask you. I I understand that Ward is older, but I think why would you, or maybe I should phrase it this way. Would you rather the 49ers extend Demo than Charvarius Ward?
absolutely, absolutely. And I know Trivarius
Interesting.
Ward is a really good corner, but
Yeah.
when you look at the situation, I believe Trivarius Ward is going to be 29 this year, if not 28. I just want to say 29. So he's already hitting that 30 age when it comes to corners. If you pay him, you're going to be paying him really good money, like really good money. You got him on a bargain when you signed him from Kansas City. And once those corners hit that 30 range, they usually tend to decline. He's also had a lot of core injuries. He's had groin injuries,
Yeah.
hamstring injuries. So that's going to take a toll on his body. He just had core surgery.
I
So
think you and I have talked about that because you talked with Josh
it,
Harp, who said he was never the same, right? Wow, actually,
yeah, he was
that's
never
full
the same
circle
when he
because
got back.
wasn't it him and Kittle both had that same surgery?
So and
Maybe
then
they
when you
will
look
be
at
moving
Demo,
off
he's
of
going
Kittle.
into his. I don't know. I just can't see Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch moving from Kittle. I think Kittle is the absolute
Me neither, but I'm just saying with that.
lifer. Like he's the guy that they want to
That's my assumption too. Like,
embark on, like their career will be based around Kittle, if that makes sense. Like Kittle did them a solid by generating and doing great for them. I don't see them moving from Kittle at all, at all, at all. Like that's like the biggest one that I will not see happening. Like I will go 10 toes down and say
they
Kittle's
don't
going
even
to be a
have
Niner for
like
life.
I think and this is gonna get. I wonder if this would be a debate that we would disagree with if they had to move off of Kit. And this is like completely hypothetical. This is not the way that it's going. But if they had to move off of Kittle or Aiyuk this offseason right now, this is not going to happen. They're both under contract. This is not going to happen. But which one would you choose? I know I just asked you
If
about
I had
Demo
to
and Ward.
choose
We'll
to
get
move
back to
off of
that.
one,
Yeah.
if I had to move off of one of them,
I wonder. I feel like I'm going to say the opposite of what you're going to say.
I'm keeping Brandon Ayuk.
See, but for this offense,
I'm keeping Brandon Ayuk.
maybe Kittle.
Kittle's a right
Though.
tackle.
Kittle, I think.
Kittle's a tackle. Kittle's the way the Niners use
But
Kittle
that's
is
what I'm saying.
a
I think
tackle.
they need his receiving ability. He catches as many targets as Brendan Aiyuk does. Like neither of them are utilized in the system. And they don't have a tight. I mean, they literally don't even have like Ross Dwelley anymore. But they don't have anyone. At least if they were to move off of Brandon Aiyuk, it's an excellent wide receiver draft. They do have some wide receivers on their team right now. Whether or not I think most of us agree at this point in his career, Deebo Samuel's not an actual pure wide receiver one. But with Brock Purdy's skill set and the skill set that he can maximize, I actually think that maybe George Kittle would be the safer bet out of Brandon Aiyuk and George Kittle. I'm also kind of just trying to play devil's advocate. Like I really understand the Brandon Ayuk
you do have a
argument.
great
He's
point though.
ascending.
I would know. Don't. It's not necessarily playing devil's advocate. Don't go there. Like don't because you have a great point. Like it's not necessarily being devil's advocate. Like you have a legitimate point. So I don't want you to like make it sound
It's
like
just
you're
pointing out the way
going
that
that
Kyle
way just to
Shanahan
go
like
that way.
utilizes his players.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
but because like I just don't want you to sound like you're playing devil's advocate because like when you think about it, you're not really doing that. You're presenting a great point. Like essentially, like it's true when you look at Kyle Shanahan's offense. It does
Yeah.
favor George Kittle, but in the NFL, it's a pass happy league. Where I also said on Grant's show yesterday, where I think Kyle needs to evolve and go a lot more pass happy. I think he needs to pass the
I
ball
agree with
more,
that.
especially if you trust Brock Purdy as your franchise quarterback. And I think that would benefit Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers. So that's why I would keep Brandon Aiyuk over George Kittle. And I think the age plays a factor for me. Injury history plays a factor. Um, because George Kittle is George Kittle, and I think the Niners would prefer to keep Aiyuk because they feel like he's their culture. He is essentially their culture. So I think that's a way they would lean. But I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
literally pick your poison kind of thing.
I think if you were starting a team over from ground zero, looking at the NFL and the rules that they have that favor offense now, then yeah, and just like
But if we're
age,
starting a team,
ability to utilize a serviceable QB, like just put X QB in there. If you were just starting over a team over, then yeah, you would say Brandon Aiyuk for sure is probably the better player and the more the player that would get the most utilization out of him and George Kittle. But that's why I'm saying it's more a reflection of Kyle Shanahan and his scheme to say that potentially George Kittle is more useful on this team.
yeah, I think George Kittle is more useful on the team because of the happiness the players provide. Hopefully, I don't know if you can. Probably not because it says I have a
I
connection
can hear you
trouble
say
again.
probably not. I can. Oh, okay. Well, you guys have to tell me in the comments if you had to choose between George Kittle and Brandon Aiyuk, which player would you choose to keep on this team? So that's just a purely hypothetical question because, like I said, both of those guys are under contract right now. And then the next question that I'm gonna ask Marco is actually out of Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir, which one is worthy of a contract extension, or is maybe the financials? Maybe it's like less who's worthy and who actually just makes the most sense. So let me know in the comments out of those four guys, which two you would keep on this team. And I think Marco's back. Hi, Marco.
Yeah, but going to I know you were talking about Demo and Ward right now, and we just got done talking about George Kittle versus Ayuk. But going
Really
for
quickly,
the
someone agrees with me in the comments. Jesus. I will say though, he says a lot of things I disagree with, and so I'm only pulling up the things that support my.
fits your narrative,
This is a very biased show here. But he says he would keep Kittle because he's cheaper, and then draft a talented wide receiver, which would potentially make sense. Because man, I was making a great argument. I think longevity wise and like not just trying to win a Super Bowl in the upcoming season, then Brandon Aiyuk is by far the better player. I think Brandon Aiyuk is by far the better player long term, but I think if we're just looking at how to best win a Super Bowl in this upcoming season, unless Kyle Shanahan is open to changing his entire offensive philosophy, which I wish he was, but it doesn't seem like he has done that much self-reflection yet, then George Kittle might be the guy. But moving on to corners, because I know that you and I want to talk about the draft, and there's definitely some corners in the draft that I'd like to talk to you about. But with the corners that we do have right now, we have kind of two stars, but at different points of their career. So we have Charvarius Ward, who had his all-pro, Pro Bowl breakout season last year. He came over from the Kansas City Chiefs, gave the team a pretty friendly deal to be a corner, the number one cornerback. Hi, friend. Hi, friend.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully this works. I'm on my computer now, so hopefully this works. I will see how long. My apologies, everyone, especially you,
No worries.
Ashley. That's
It's okay.
that everything's going
I think
how it
it's
is.
kind of fun. You know what I mean? We got to
Back
keep
and
people
forth.
on their toes. Yeah.
I'm over
Where's
here stressing.
I was gonna say where's no, that's Where's Waldo. I was like, damn, is there that many like kid things about Marcos? But no, it's Waldo.
Yeah, where's Waldo?
But that's what we're doing right now with you. Is Marco gonna be here? Is he gonna be over here? Where's he gonna be? Is he gonna be looking this way? I thought that was your most clear connection was when you were just like
Sideways, just
people were like tuning in and they're like, does he hate her? He's like not even looking at the
doesn't want
screen.
to talk to her.
Okay. So we have the 49ers have two cornerbacks right now that both have, I want to say, outplayed the contracts that they're on, or at least are in the process of overperforming and doing really well, surprising fans. I think going into last season, I didn't expect either of those corners to be as good as they were. Talking about Deommodore Lenoir, Tarvarius Ward. Now, I think the ability to lock up a number one corner is really important for a football team, especially when we're thinking about the NFC West. We have DK Metcalf. I think I saw someone saying that they thought some wide receivers were going to go pretty high in the draft and maybe come to the NFC. We have Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua for the Rams. So 49ers need to have a good cornerback room. I think Charvarius Ward has performed really great. Now, are you under the assumption that he's just going to cost too much? And so it's more cost effective for the 49ers to keep Deommodore Lenoir? Because I feel like Lenoir is really good, but that there's probably a lot of cornerbacks like him in the league. Like, I think he's like upper middle. Like he's like a good average number two. So and maybe I'm just underselling him. So I'm more asking, is your opinion that Lenoir is, the better player, or is it just that he's going to be cheaper, or is it the age thing, which is kind of what we're talking about with Brandon Aiyuk, right? Like a big plus with Brandon Aiyuk is just the fact that he's going to be ascending at the same time as Brock Purdy. Obviously, keeping a guy like Lenoir brings that core younger. I kind of named my show after that. Is it time to be out with the old, in with the new? Obviously you want to win this upcoming season, but then start looking to make your, start building your team from the draft and going to the future. I can see the argument for Lenoir, is better for that. I do think Ward is the better player though, and potentially, now we know he's going to follow where the money is, right? Like he left the Chiefs to come where the 49ers are. So are you just under this assumption that the 49ers won't be able to afford Ward? Or why is your opinion that the 49ers should extend Demo over Ward, if that is your opinion?
So when you look at Demo, right, like he's able to play inside, outside. He's able to travel across the field. He can essentially do what Charvarius Ward does a little bit more, because I think Charvarius Ward struggles to move inside the slot. Not necessarily struggles, but he's not as good as playing the slot as Deommodore Lenoir. Now, if you extend Lenoir now, you could get him at a cheaper price, and if you do next year, because he's hitting the free agent market, he's going to get offers from other teams. So you're truly having to overpay him in a way, because now he's a free agent. You got to overpay when you're in free agency, because that player is getting offers from other teams. He's getting those those contract numbers from other teams, and he understands that it's going to be a bidding war. Now, Charvarius Ward is also aging. He's at that 29 age this year, I believe. And he's had a lot of injuries. Once you hit 30 as a corner, like you do start trending down. I don't know why.
What age was Jalen when the Rams let him go to Miami?
Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
I felt like he dropped off a cliff a little bit.
Because but the thing with Jalen Ramsey is like over there, and he's 29 this year. He turns 30 in October.
Why do I feel like Ramsey has been in the league for like 15 years? Is it just like there's been a lot of talk around him forever?
Hey, quick question.
I'm not trying to call him old, but isn't that a thing? Don't you feel like
he's been in the league for a while? I got a question for you, and this is coming not from me, but
like you said, Ward is the same
20. He's
age
gonna
as
be 29.
Ramsey? Like, doesn't that feel weird? Like, I
No,
feel
Ramsey's
like
a year older.
Ramsey is 31 and Ward is 27. I don't know
No,
why.
Ward
That's
is
like how I
27. Ward's 27. He's gonna be 28. No, in May. Yeah, April. In May. He'll be 28 in May. But I have a question for you, and this is coming from a friend. So, without having to be creepy, my friend Mark wants to know, how does he tell you he admires your teeth without sounding creepy?
how do I tell Ashley I admire? Thank you so much.
Mark, this is how you tell someone you like their teeth without sounding
Yeah,
creepy.
you say
Hey,
coming
Ashley,
coming
my
from a
friend
friend.
Mark thinks you have a
Coming
nice
from a
smile.
yeah. I appreciate that. If you're literally asking about my teeth, I always want to do like whitening things, but I've never done one because I brush my teeth. I'm like OCD, so I brush my teeth pretty hard. I'm also I'm a flosser. Like people don't floss. People don't floss that I don't understand. I floss I cannot brush my teeth without flossing.
She's
I
like
floss.
Uncle Sharp. If you watch Shannon Sharp, she's like Uncle Sharp. She brushes her teeth like 16 times a day. That's what she
Yeah, I
does.
brush my teeth after every single meal. I floss and brush my teeth every single meal, so usually like 2 to 3 times a day. And but I don't use any whitening anything because I think it hurts your enamel. And I really wanted braces when I was younger because like my friend Molly had braces, and everyone thought I don't know braces, which is weird, right? Because I remember them being uncool, but for some reason in my school, when all the girls got braces at the same time, so I felt left out because I couldn't afford. I'm not now, but when I was young, my parents are very poor, and so I couldn't afford braces. And I also went to my dentist. He was like, "You don't need them," and I was like, "No, I want braces," because like my best friend and everyone I knew had braces. Um, my little sister got braces, but no, I didn't. I don't know. Just lucky. My mom sometimes I feel like maybe I have a little bit of horse teeth. My mom has big teeth. I also always had like a what's it called? Like an overbite or
I
whatever.
have an
But
overbite. I had an
yeah.
overbite. I got braces. Did not wear my retainers. Probably need braces again.
I my best friend see everyone I know, God, had braces. My other best friend Lacey had braces, and she also used to never wear her retainer in high school. But now she's like my age and she wears her retainer. She's like better about it now. So interesting.
But back to Niner
Um
talk. Just going back to
see, flossing is key.
um
Do you floss every single time? Marco, be
me.
honest.
Not no, I don't. I used to have a water pick.
Marco!
I used to have a water pick, and I would put the water pick in there, and I would do everything.
That's so funny. You have a nice smile.
My
It's a
guy
nice
Mark is just trying to hit on you.
it's an overbite. I like that. I admire it. This is turned. See, you did
See,
good
Mark,
about the
I
not
think he's
sounding
thinking
creepy
about
and
me because I have the overbite too, so that's what it is. But
exactly.
going back to like Niner talk, right? Like Demo, I think he's younger. You could get him at a cheaper price if you extend him now. I don't know if he would be willing to do it, right? Like the player also has to be willing to extend,
What
and
would be
you're
the
not willing to bet
difference
on him.
of between contracts between Charvarius Ward? What if they extended Ward for like 3 years? How long do you what's the length of contract they'd want to give Demo?
At least
3 or
4
4?
or 5.
4 or
Yeah,
5?
at least 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Because like when you look at Demo, right? Like he could do everything. Charvarius Ward can't go into the slot with the best receivers and match up with them. I mean, he can, but that's not his
Do you
game.
think Demo's a better player than Ward? No.
I think Demo's a lot more underrated than him. I think Demo's up
Really?
there with him. I think Demo's just as
Okay.
good as Charvarius Ward.
Okay, maybe I'm not watching. Maybe this is a good side note because I think I assume that the difference between the two is pretty large. But you're saying it's not.
No, I don't think
There's
it's
not
that
that much of
large.
a drop off.
No, I don't think it's that big of a drop off. I think if we asked Demo to be the number 1 corner, I think he could handle it. I think he has that mentality to do it, and he has the play strength and the ability to do it. So
Do you think that because when I think of how good Charvarius Ward is, I think of those highlights on
do you remember?
Twitter, which is just like 3 minutes of Charvarius Ward just
It's
killing
classic.
DK Metcalf.
But
But to be fair,
do you
I
remember
think
when
this is like a 49er thing.
Witherspoon?
I don't think DK is that good. But
Yeah,
I
he's
know
not.
that he's good. I know like to other teams he's good. But like I feel like the 49ers get in his head every single time. And
Do you remember
even back
when
in the day when the Seahawks used to beat the 49ers all the time, Metcalf would still freaking get in his head and get thrown out of games and shit.
Do you remember Witherspoon locked up Metcalf for a while? Like that one game?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember that, but he locked up Metcalf for one game.
I do.
And
I do.
So it's like, did Ward do much? Because like if Witherspoon did it and no one liked Witherspoon, what does that say like about Metcalf?
I don't know. Eric Crocker is a big like Witherspoon apologist. Is that the right word for him? Like he always thinks that Witherspoon had like way too much criticism. But that's interesting. I like what you're saying about Deommodore, and part of me thinks that maybe you're correct, because I think prior to this year that Ward just had, like if Demo would have had this year, so we're looking at Demo after this season, but looking at Ward last season, I would think that they're pretty similar. So I can see Demo having like that breakout year that Charvarius Ward just had coming up. You know what I mean? Because he is younger.
And the thing with people the thing too, though, Ashley, like that people look at it like they're like, oh, well, Ward got interceptions. Interceptions doesn't mean a good corner. Like that's like I know a lot of people. Like, it means yes, you want a corner to get intercepted.
I only know that because they won't fucking give Sam Molnick any sort of playing time, and he catches the ball every time he's on the goddamn field. So I disagree. I'm like, look at that guy who has an act for the ball. But you're right. Though at least the way the 49ers see it, they seem to think that's more luck or something, or else Molnick would be on the field.
Interceptions are an interesting stat, in my opinion. Like it's about opportunities and stuff like that. And
can I ask the dumbest question ever, really quick? Is Geno still the quarterback for the Seahawks?
Yeah, he's a quarterback. They're planning on starting him.
They've like done everything. They got rid of Pete Carroll. I feel like they got rid of like a bunch of defensive players, right? So I don't know why I just like forgot that Geno.
Their team's gonna be different, but going to something I wanted to talk about.
Are they gonna?
I know we talked a little bit about everything. They might draft Michael Penix. Pause. I hate saying his name. I don't know how to say it, but like
Michael Penix. Penix, right?
Because I can't say an X like when it comes out, it just doesn't sound right.
I have words like that. What do I say wrong? I say woof, like.
And then when you say it on air, like think about how people think about how it sounds if you're listening to something and someone just says Michael Penix. Like initially, what do you hear? Like it's.
I know. I think I know that you're getting at something inappropriate, but I don't.
It's inappropriate. I feel like it's. I hate saying his name on air.
I think you're doing fine. If that gives you any solace, I don't hear anything bad.
Makes me feel better. But going to the draft, because I kind of want to talk a little bit about the draft.
I was going to ask, because we're talking about corner and number one corners. Could the 49ers, because I brought up my little note, but could the 49ers end up going cornerback instead of O-line if they were to stay at 31?
I mean, what corner is there? If it's, for example, if Kool-Aid McKinstry falls to 31 somehow, 100% you got to take him. 100% you take him. I think he'd be the best player available there. I think he's my cornerback one in this draft. I have him, Terrion Arnold, and then Quincy Mitchell. Those are my top three. Only corners I have in the first round.
I just almost died. Sorry.
Fine. She's about to have heck of a soda come out of her nose.
We're struggling on this one. Wait, really quick, because I wanted to ask you, who do I have? I wrote down Cooper
Dijon.
Yes. And then Nate Wiggins, but I have written down
Pass.
Skinny, but only 21. And then I wrote down fast, but then also if gains weight would be less fast, ? But those are the notes that I wrote.
Weight without losing.
Is that true? Because I ran track in college, and when I lost weight, I was faster. And
did you gain weight the right way?
No, probably not. No.
There you go. Definitely. Because what happens is one of these.
I lost like a lot of speed. Like
I feel bad for asking that question. I'm not gonna lie. So my apologies. It didn't want to.
Okay, I really like chocolate. We've talked a lot about it on our streams.
But like, if you gain weight the right way, if you gain it the right way, you could be fine. And I think the Niners should go O-line, depending on who's there.
but I could also see the 49ers truly going corner if it's got like Kool-Aid, Terrion Arnold, which I don't see them falling, but if they're there, they should. I don't see Cooper DeJean being a corner in the NFL. I think, and if he is, he's restricted to zone coverage, in my opinion. I don't think he could play man. He's talking about Cooper DeJean,
That's
Dijon
funny.
Mustard. That's a good
I
one.
like. So which
That's
one's
a good
better,
one.
Kool-Aid McKendry or
Oh,
Cooper
Kool-Aid by
DeJean?
far the best corner in the draft. I think he's by far the best corner in the draft.
Oh, okay. Now is he rated? I think PFF has him as like the third or fifth, right?
Yeah, but so you
Best
also got to
corner.
realize too, though, like I don't look at PFF, and the only reason I don't look at PFF is because they use their grading chart to rank these guys, right? Like they grade these college players and then they use them to grade, and I think that's a big flaw because you're grading these players off of your system, and that's how you're ranking them. But like their system's flawed. Like so, people don't know. I worked for PFF for a summer to see how it operated. Like, I didn't like it
That's
because they're
cool.
making a broadcast.
Damn, I feel like he's
Like, I
spilling
did
the
not like
tea,
that.
and PFF is coming into the stream and making it mess up. You, Marco, repeat what you just said because you went away.
I cut out. Did I cut out?
Yeah, PFF was trying to
I worked
stop
for
you from
PFF
spreading their secrets.
So I worked for PFF for a summer. Their grading system's flawed. They also make you watch film from the broadcast angle. You're not going to be able to see everything from the broadcast angle.
Interesting.
And so for me,
that's a weird.
That was something. Yeah, very weird. Also,
Can I ask you, like, what is? Do they have like a rule book or something? Like, how do they?
Yeah,
have
they
you
have like a grading
give...
system. Like, so every play, like you give a plus, minus, or whatever, and then like it ends up equaling their stuff. Like it's a weird, interesting grading system. Like it really is. It's not like you could have a player have a great play, but it could be a negative play for him, which makes no sense. Like doesn't make sense in my opinion. So their system's flawed. I see Leon Sandcastle. You asked Marco, if Dijon is there, would you take him over O line? No, because I think Cooper DeJean is zone schematics only. I think he's going to be a perfect fit for a cover 3 system, but you can't play man with him. You can't disguise things and go man. You can't do certain things because I think that's where he struggles. So I think you kind of lean away from that. I think the 49ers should go O-line if there's no top corners on the board. And I think if we look at their biggest need, I truly think the biggest need is obviously O-line, right? Like that's the biggest need. But I think the second biggest need, and it's arguable to be the first, like the biggest need on the team, is corner. It's truly corner. Think about it, right? Demo's out of his contract this year. I believe Ward's out of his contract this coming year. I think this is his final season. Could be wrong, but you have two guys that are due for contracts. You have Ambry Thomas that's manning the other side. You have Isaac Yiadom on a 1-year deal. Isaac Yiadom had I wouldn't say great either. He had one good year with the Saints last year, and after that, he hasn't done nothing in the NFL. So truly, that's your number one position of need.
And it might be like if you do stay at 31, and you and I can talk about like should the 49ers move up and be aggressive, depending on who they like. But if they did want to stay up at 31, they might it's shown that it's projected that quarterbacks and offensive linemen are set to go earlier. So I think the first 5, the best 5 offensive linemen are going to be gone by the time the 49ers are choosing. So 49ers might be having to, kind of reach for an offensive lineman. I know I've talked a lot with Tom Jensen, who really likes Avarius Mims. But Mims is like ranked, and once again, PFF is flawed, but he's supposed to be, going like 60 something or something. Like he's
PFF has Mims at 60s.
No. Like, what did they say? Like that's what he's worth, but that he'll go higher because he's the 6th ranked offensive lineman, I guess. But that he is actually like worth a lower round pick, and that it would be more of a projection because of his injury history and the lack of games played.
I agree with him
there. If you're choosing between like the 6th or 7th best offensive lineman, and let's say, Kool-Aid McKendry is down, would you rather the 49ers choose a guy like Mims or Kool-Aid? That's
bring me Kool-Aid. If Kool-Aid is there, so there's 3 players that I truly see at 31 that are not offensive linemen, if they're there, you run to the podium and you take Kool-Aid McKinstry, Adonai Mitchell from LSU, and the third one is a defensive tackle in Byron Murphy. Those are the only ones I take if there's not an offensive tackle there. Outside of that, I'm going offensive tackle because I think you could get a guard, you could get a tackle, you could get a center at 31 and being a starting caliber center, guard or tackle. So I think that's where I would go. I truly think corners are more of a bigger need than people think. I don't see defensive tackle as big of a need because they just signed two 2-year guys. You signed Jordan Elliott. You signed edge rusher in why can I not think of his name? Leonard Floyd. You also have Malik Collins. So it's not really like a dying need, but it is a need too because like that position is going to be hit hard next year when they have to cut Hargrave. So that's going to be a position of need too. So for me, I definitely think there's a lot you could do at 31. They could even potentially move back in that second round into like that 37 range.
I don't want them to do that. I don't want them to do that. I want them to be aggressive. I want you to stay at 31 and choose best player available that falls to you, or I would rather them move up, and maybe that's. I know that you can get in trouble that way if it feels like you're reaching, but if there's a guy like an offensive lineman that they think can come in and play right away, that maybe is less of a gamble if somehow one of those guys falls a little bit, which I don't know that they will, but if they could get up to like 20, potentially they could get their hands on one of those, more of a steady or sure thing instead of a gamble. Or if they could get, same thing, a starting number one cornerback that's young, that can be with them for years to come, and then they extend Deommodore Lenoir, let's say, keep him as the number 2 / he has the ability to, move inside and outside. I don't know. I'm for teams being aggressive, but I do know that some people I think are a little bit more wary of that because if you do miss, then it feels like you're giving up even more assets for a miss. But I don't know. How do you feel about that? About the 49ers potentially moving up?
I mean, I wouldn't mind if it's for the right player. And like, so for example,
knowing us, they're gonna move up and like get a player that they didn't need to move up for.
Yeah, like I could see them doing something like outrageous where they move up for like a defensive tackle. Like,
yeah, that guy. Who did I ask you about last year? Robinson or something?
And I think that would be a terrible decision because you could get a starting defensive tackle in the second round in this draft. Like the way the draft's going to fall, you're going to get a star.
That's what I'm saying. Like good players are going to be pushed down, right?
I don't necessarily. I wouldn't say good players are going to be pushed down because I think the entire draft after that, like I don't see the depth where even in the fifth round, there's not as much depth in this class as I've seen in the past. So when I'm looking at it, truly, I would prefer to be aggressive in this draft and trade up. Like, make sure if you're at 31, try to get to 15. What's it going to cost you? Is it going to cost you next year's 1, a second, and a 3? I would do it. I would truly do it.
I don't want to move next year's 1. I don't think. Unless, maybe. If they could get one of those top 5 offensive linemen, like a guy that has been a known starter, have him start on the right side, and that he's going to take over for Trent when Trent leaves, then then it's worth it. Because you're going to have to move off of that next year's 1. Like, say they don't do that, then next year they're going to have to use that pick on an offensive lineman or use it in a trade to go get someone. Because eventually they're going to have to get someone who's going to take over for Trent, right? So I agree with you.
My go-to guy right now in the draft at 31, if he's there, I'm running to the podium and I'm drafting Kingsley Suamataia. I personally believe in, I think the Samoan offensive tackles. It's just something about the offensive tackles, and it's something about them that they're great protectors on the offensive line. And it's kind of weird saying that. I don't want to make it a stereotype, but those dudes are dogs. Like they have a mentality that is special. And I think that has to do with culture and how they, and I hope Jason could confirm this. Like this is something like, and I don't want to come off like I'm sounding very stereotypical. but they have a mentality to protect you. Like they take it personal. And I know this because I grew up with a lot of Samoans, and they take it so personal when they don't protect
Part of
someone they
their
love.
character.
Like
Part of their character.
that's part of their culture. And I think usually every Samoan offensive lineman has that mentality. Or any Samoan in general. I think like they just have a great culture, like great mentality, great character, and his play matches him. It's just super athletic. From everyone I talked to, great kid, very humble, and he's truly could play. Um, all he's there, I'm running to the podium. I think he's a legit player. I think he's, as Jason says, it's true. If you're on the team, family, and I'm protecting you with my life. That's what I'm saying. Like it's different for them. And for me, when you talk to them, when you interact with them, you truly feel that. Like honestly, if he's on the Niners team, he's gonna win every fan over at the podium
And
immediately.
you think he has the chance? You have the chance. He has the chance to fall down, or the 49ers would have to go get him.
I think he could go around 20s. I think he should go
Okay.
earlier. Personally, he's my number 3 offensive tackle in this draft, and I'm not one of those people who, I'm not one of those people who scouts, but I look where everyone else is ranking people. I do my job.
Yeah.
I look what I do. He's number 3 on my board. He's probably number 7, 8 on other people's boards. Number 3 on mine.
Okay.
He's probably going to be there at 31. Projected to go from 20 to 40. That's where he's projected from people.
So you'd rather get him than Mims?
100%. 100%.
Okay, why is that? Just
Safer
because
pick.
of that mentality?
Safer pick.
Okay.
The mentality.
Now, why are people really high on Mims then? Just because of the characteristics?
If Mims just his upside, like of his physicality, his athleticism, his size, he's gonna.
I have like PTSD of letters going upside. Stop. Just get the one. Just get the sure thing. Just get the sure thing.
Hey, Jason got me cracking up. He says if not, mom's gonna hit me with the slap ass.
Yeah, I saw that.
She's gonna smack you, and it's true. Like we got Leon Sandcastle saying, "I want the receiver Polk, really talented player, and the type of player that literally sleeps in the gym to be the first one in and the last in the morning. Love that hustle." And then Jason,
have you been keeping up? Steph Sanchez has like a running thing of the guys that they've had meetings with and stuff, and the Polk guy sounds familiar, but maybe I'm wrong.
I thought I saw it. I don't know if he was on that list though.
Okay, I could be wrong.
But I do know that they like.
Now I do not think that they should go receiver with that fucking first round pick, or fans are gonna riot.
Disagree. If I'm telling you, if Adonai Mitchell from Texas is there, you run to the podium and you take him. Absolutely.
I don't know. I know you're supposed to do best player available, not
he's
need.
He's a number 3
They don't need a freaking receiver. They need
Hold on, but
do what's gonna happen? They're gonna make it to the Super Bowl, and he's not gonna get the ball in his hands because they don't have a fucking offensive line.
But what about when you trade Debo next year? Who do you pair with Brandon Aiyuk? If you go best player available, you have someone to replace. Jennings not going to be around next year. You want Danny Gray to play. That's what it is.
I don't know if Danny Gray is going to be on the team anymore. I don't know.
So you think about receivers, the need too. So for receivers, there is like it's a need because you're building for the future. So that's where I'm at right now.
Like saying, like they low key need like a lot of different positions because like so many of their guys are on 1 year to 2 year deals. Like the team is going to look completely different in 2025.
You know why they need a lot of players?
Makes a good point.
Because they have not drafted well.
Yeah,
they have not. Let's go through some of their draft picks, right? Let's go through. So their tight ends that they just drafted, they pretty much told us how they feel about those two guys. Trying to sign someone.
Yeah.
Linebacker. Try to sign one. I don't think he is either. I think if he wasn't a 3rd round pick, they would have cut him last year.
Yeah. You're right.
He better come in. He better come in the best shape of his life. He better come in with the mentality, a better route running ability.
Because he could not hold on to the ball. That's what I do every single day. I'm putting
And if we
glue on
look
my
at,
hands.
and then let's look at more picks, right? They drafted Nick Zakel, hasn't played. They drafted the corner that you were just talking about, Womack, hasn't played.
I think that's more the 49ers. I don't understand why Womack's not playing.
I
What is he
agree.
doing wrong? Every time he's on the field, I feel like he does well. I don't understand. Like he must just suck in practice or something. Something that we don't know about.
I don't know if it's that he sucks in practice.
I remember I
think
think it was Richard Sherman said like they had problems with him against the run or something, but
okay, so since the Niners drafted Trey Lance, right? Like that they traded up Heckle ones to go get Trey Lance. Obviously, they missed on Trey Lance. They took Trey Sermon in the third, bust, not even on the team. Ambry Thomas, bust, not on the team. Jalen Moore in the fifth round.
did you say
not
Ambry
good.
Thomas?
Demo, Ambry
Ambry
Thomas
Thomas
in the
is
third round. No, he's not a bust. He's on the team. No, I said Trey Sermon.
Oh, okay.
So Ambry Thomas
Sermon.
hasn't really played much. Like he plays, but not at the level he should be for the third rounder.
They would rather him not play. They've done everything they've started everyone ahead of him that they possibly could and tried to make them play ahead of him. So
absolutely. And then they did the back end of that 2021 draft was really good. Demo, Hufanga, and Mitchell. Mitchell, 6th round, really good player, but just constantly hurt. The following year in 2022 was atrocious. The first couple of picks were bad. Drake Jackson, bad. Davis Price, not on the team. Danny Gray, hasn't played. Spencer Burford, a starter but has struggled. Samuel Womack, hasn't played.
I mean, is
Nick
he even going to
Zakel.
be a starter? It sounds like they want John Feliciano to start over him now.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Then you have Nick Zakel, hasn't played. Kalia Davis, injured, hasn't really played. Tariq Castro Fields, I believe he's on the Commanders. Brock Purdy, great pick.
There we go.
This past year, Jair Brown, starter. Moody, starter. Latu, not going to comment. Terrell Luter might be something.
What
I mean,
about Luter? Do you think Luter will end up being something?
Luter can be, but also he blew a special teams coverage that no one wants to talk about.
True.
Bum,
That definitely was
Robert
pushed
Beal.
off onto Ray Moore.
Robert Beal.
Same thing. Also, Super Bowl,
potential.
the only play that he was there fucked up. Sorry.
And then their 6th rounders, 6th, 7th, and 7th. The winners, they don't trust him. Braden Willis, tight end, they don't trust. Ronnie Bell has played, caught a couple touchdowns, I believe 3. Jalen Graham, they don't trust. They have not drafted well. And this is why we're here where we're at. Oh yeah, Brock Purdy is for sure saving that draft class. It's a terrible draft class.
That's what was kind of interesting. I was talking with Tom about this on Wednesday when Jed York was kind of immediately said that that salary cap was the number one difference between the 49ers' ability to like win all the Super Bowls back in the day with Eddie DeBarlo versus now. It's like, actually, they were just incredible at drafting as well. And that's something that the 49ers are not acknowledging that they are really bad at. So
it's because it's John Lynch. He's not going to tell it. He's a good media person, and they're not going to let him be dragged in the media. But we have not drafted well. Our biggest need is corner, where they've spent a lot of picks on. They have not hit on any of them. They have offensive line issues, but they, instead of drafting them higher,
why they want to draft higher with the cornerbacks. It's like you said, they haven't hit on.
But I think they could get a corner or a starting corner in the 2nd or 3rd round of this draft if they decide to go.
I'm team that. I'm team O-line with the first pick, cornerback with your 2nd or 3rd round pick, depending on if you use that 2nd or 3rd round pick to trade up.
I mean, they could. Round. I think there's a way you could do it, but I'm not sure how they tend to operate this draft because this is, in my opinion, this is the biggest draft class of the Shanahan.
They have to hit on this, right?
Like it's bigger. I think this is personally bigger than the Lance pick, because with the Lance pick, you were going into number 3, and it was always going to be a gamble on whatever quarterback you took. I always think a quarterback's a gamble no matter what.
Where this one, it's like you need to get starters out of this
because you have the quarterback now. Now it's all about getting cheaper so you could keep some of these expensive players. So you need production from rookies and second round players within the next few years. And if they don't get it, they're in trouble. Like literally, they're in trouble. So, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest draft classes of their era. Even though the biggest
I think you're right
pick,
with that.
the biggest pick was the Trey Lance pick, but this is the biggest
Well,
draft class.
I agree. This is the biggest draft because what we're saying is like there's really only one more year with this main core, and the core has already, you know, been broken down a lot. But if they want to continue, not even like I want to win a Super Bowl, but just like being in the playoffs and successful, they need to start getting the next wave of players going because they're one of the oldest teams I think in the NFL, and they don't have young guys that are set to replace them. They have number 2 guys and they have depth, but they don't have guys that are in the developmental pattern that are going to take over. You know, they don't have a guy behind George Kittle who's going to be the next George Kittle. They don't have a young wide receiver who's going to take over as number 1 for Deebo Samuel to pair with Brandon Aiyuk. You know, yeah, that's what I mean. Same thing with that O-line when Trent Williams leaves. Like they have a lot of same thing with cornerback if they don't end up extending Demo. They really do need to I guess safety. They have Jair Brown, which is good. But they really do need to start actually hitting on draft picks and have the ability to, if they want to have a smooth transition, right? Because that's kind of what the Warriors, I know you made a post saying you want to talk more Warriors and Giants moving forward on your channel. Not that we have to do that right now, but I think a huge problem for the Warriors is they are this like old veteran team and they haven't really done a good job at deciding like, are we going to move off these guys and start going younger? And they've, tried to do a mixture of everything. And I don't think that ends up being the right decision long term, And I think if the 49ers want to not have like a drought, the reason that the Rams were able to kind of bounce back so well is because of how well they've drafted after having like one down year.
I think the thing is it's just draft, like you're saying, like you have to find guys who could be starters. And I wouldn't even say it's to replace any big name players. I would say it's more to complement those players. And like, for example, Dre Greenlaw, probably not going to be back with the Niners. He's going to probably get a bigger contract if they can't afford him. You need someone to complement Fred Warner. You need a corner who could complement the Demo. You need it's not necessarily replacing Ward. It's complementary players, and I think that's the biggest thing the Niners don't have.
Didn't they also try to draft a linebacker, or am I wrong on that? See, they need to start actually hitting on these guys because it's not even that they're not spending resources on them. It's just that the guys they are spending resources on end up like not even being on the team a year later. It's crazy. But
I think that's the biggest thing in my opinion. I know I do see Eric Shun's comment from Ashley Ariana's channel. So trade back and collect picks. No. So
they already have like 10 picks, right?
What was that?
They already have like 10 picks.
Yeah, they have 10 picks, but even too, like when you trade back to get picks, it doesn't mean more talent. It just means more draft picks. And the more you trade back,
but for lesser, like lower chance of hit rate, right?
Yeah. So the way I see the draft is the top 3 rounds, you're going to get the best athletes going. Best athletes, best players. Rounds 4 through 7, you're picking on players who don't have the talent, but they have the film. And like they have lesser talent. I shouldn't say they don't have the talent, they have lesser talent, but their film shows they take a ball. So that's kind of, and essentially, if you're truly looking to find 4 starters, be aggressive. Trade up. You have a couple of 5th rounders. You have trade up. Go get into that 3rd round and go get that. Go get a corner. Go get certain players. So for me, that's kind of where I'm looking at. Another talking Lance in the chat a little bit. Lance would have developed if they would have let him start year 1. Kyle Shanahan, I talked about this on Grant's show yesterday. They didn't let him play year 1. And I think that was a mistake by letting the Cabo clique talk about
kind of dictate.
They let the Cabo clique choose who started.
Yeah. I agree with that, but unfortunately, he's not on the team anymore. I wonder. It'll be interesting if he does end up. I would love to see him start for a team. It would just be interesting to see what happens after a year. If he was, given the opportunity. I'm not saying I think Dallas will probably end up paying Dak, but it would be interesting to see. And that would have been a time, like we're talking about right now, kind of starting over with your roster. That would have been a time to do it when they drafted for Lance. It was weird that the timelines didn't make sense, and I think fans knew that before the 49ers did. But right now, it looks like potentially the 49ers understand what they need to do, at least with this new quarterback. So at least they're trying to right their wrongs with Brock Purdy. I feel like they know that they need to get younger and start developing with him, which is why extending a guy like Brandon Aiyuk is so pivotal, and maybe why they are more willing to move off of their older veteran players. When I look at 2025 and I think about Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, how you just said Dre Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward, I think a lot of those players aren't on the team after, in 2025. So it'll be interesting to see how different this team is, and whether that's they're able to keep the same success is definitely, like you said, going to hinge on how successful they were drafting this year right now. So
I agree. And it's one of those ones where this draft class, a lot of things is they should do, but a lot of things that they probably won't do. And it's gonna be a lot of things to talk about when that comes, because do they be aggressive and go get a defensive tackle like they have done in the past, where they truly believe that the defensive line is more important than the offensive line, or the defensive line is more important than secondary? So just to be honest, like, it just depends on how they truly believe the roster should be built.
I hope they don't go defensive line. I can see it happening, but I really hoped. I was pretty much like they only should draft O-line with the first 1 to 3 picks. Up until, I want to say, maybe like 2 weeks ago, I was like, I got more open seeing their cornerback position. I can see, and just knowing how the draft board is supposed to, or is being projected to fall, I can see and accept them going cornerback if it ends up being the right choice, which I'm not sure it will be. But for the last thing that I wanted to ask you really quickly, because I do have to pee, but I saw someone say that Brock Purdy is to the 49ers what Buster Posey was to the Giants. And I thought that was a weird as hell analogy. Spreadsheet is actually the guy who said that. What does he mean? Do you agree? Maybe he means they were both underrated. Maybe he just means their last names both start with P, and their first names both start with B. Maybe that's the only correlation. But like I said, I saw your little post. Not your little post, but I saw your post about wanting to talk sports outside of just the 49ers. And then I heard this comparison. Now, I'm not super tapped into the Giants, but I thought that they sounded a little bit ridiculous. You're a little bit more of an expert in this area, so I thought I would ask you, what do they mean? Why was this a comparison that was made?
This is not a comparison. This is low-key disrespectful to Buster Posey. Like, to be honest, and I'm not trying to be that person who sounds like I'm hating on Brock, but this is disrespectful to Buster Posey. Buster Posey came in as a rookie in 2010. He won Rookie of the Year. He won a World Series championship in 2010. He was the NL bat in his second year or third year, I believe. Won his second ring. Was the NL MVP. He won MVP that 2012 season. He has 7 All-Stars appearances. He's a gold. No, this is not the same. This is not similar. He was the comeback player of the year in 2012 after he got injured. This does not. No.
Maybe
this is disrespectful to Buster Posey.
Were people underrating Buster Posey coming out of college?
Buster Posey was a top player coming out of college. I believe he was drafted with. I think he was drafted pretty high. So you don't understand where this comparison is coming from at all? No, it's just what's crazy is this is just I I don't see where this comparison is coming from. Like maybe that he's expecting. I think Buster Posey was drafted 5th or 6th overall in his draft class. Maybe so that's pretty high when you're drafted in baseball. Maybe he sees it as Brock Purdy is the future. He's the face of the franchise. But even then, Buster Posey came in year 1 as a rookie, led his team to a World Series.
Marco is like shocked right now. He's like, this is appalling.
And I'm not even that big of a baseball fan, but like that's disrespectful to Posey. Like to be honest, like Buster Posey came through that first year, won a World Series.
I did hear. Once again, I'm so bad. Like I'm not a baseball person, but I did hear that maybe Buster Posey got overhyped, at least maybe later on in his career. Like I remember people
later in his career he did
loving Buster Posey, and then people like there was kind of pushback on that, being like, yeah, he's good, but he's not like this guy that some people are making him up to be. So maybe now I don't think that is the comparison that David Lombardi would be trying to make, because I think he might be one of the guys that's hyping up Brock Purdy. So I don't think he would be the one being like, yeah, that's the comparison. But maybe that is a comparison that could be. Is that a thing? Was Buster Posey maybe a little bit less physically talented or gifted? Or
Posey
something?
was talented. He had a freaking cannon of an arm. Like if we're comparing arms, Buster Posey was a catcher you did not run on. Strong arm. Brock Purdy doesn't have that. That's just one comparison, and we want to compare them as players or athletes.
I like Eric. Eric said, so the fact that they both have BP as their initials, they both play in SF, are the only comparisons that and baby faces. Maybe it's just that they're white, dude.
That's I don't know, because
I didn't like listen to the stream. I just like saw the comparison being made, and I was like, oh, I should ask Marco about that because I don't know about.
What's crazy is you could compare them in a way. So Brock Purdy came in his rookie year, led the Niners to a Super Bowl, but didn't win it. So that's a comparison in the sense of he led them there. Buster Posey led his team to a World Series. They won it.
Awesome. They won. Okay.
They won in 2011, the year
winning
after
the Super
they
Bowl
won.
Versus not.
Yeah, that's a big
I love that everyone like makes that like they're like, oh, it's like the same.
It's the same.
No, it's not. No, there's like a big difference. But okay.
Buster Posey's second year, he got injured at the plate where it changed the rule, changed his career.
Oh,
because that changed his career. So that's a comparison, right? They both got hurt, which big injuries. The difference is Buster Posey's, I believe it was a hip. In 2011, he injured I think he broke something or something. Like I'm not 100% like there.
I hate that for him. I injured my hip in college, and still sucks to this day.
So yeah, he injured his hip. So then he in 2012 comes back from that injury, wins comeback player of the year, wins another ring. So I don't know what the comparison.
So maybe in that way, like Brock Purdy came back from injury. He didn't win comeback player of the year, probably because he, didn't break his elbow to the very last game. But you can still say like it's impressive that he came back after injury and then led his team to the Super Bowl. Once again, though, we're comparing winning the championship to just getting there, which is a difference. But
yeah. I think the only way you could compare it is they were young players at the time who are the face of their franchise.
Okay.
I think that's the only way you can compare it. And I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, that was a little bonus topic that maybe I should have listened a little bit more to the stream. Someone said Brock Purdy should have been comeback player of the year. So maybe there are a little bit of comparisons that we could see. But it sounds mostly like it's just the fact that they both play in SF, and maybe someone was reaching to come up with a good title, which, then I stole it. So maybe that part was good. But yeah, like I said, I saw that stream and then I saw your community post. So everyone, please make sure to go like and subscribe to Marco's channel. Normally he's streaming from home, so his connection, although right now is really good, but make sure if you're not already here from his channel to subscribe to his channel. In future streams, we might be talking a little bit Warriors, a little bit Giants. This was just a splash preview that I threw on Marco without preparing him for. Just a little bit of a bonus topic.
And that was kind of cool though.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Well, like I said, I saw that and I was like, what the heck? But then I was like, I don't really know about baseball. And then I saw your thing saying that you want to talk about that more. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw that on him at the end. But yeah, I had a really good time, Marco.
I appreciate that.
Someone said Giants gonna tie it up. Are they winning right now?
They're
Are they
playing right now. Today's their opening day. They got swept by the Dodgers, which is terrible because the Dodgers are their biggest rival. And if you're not familiar with baseball,
I don't understand. I was looking at baseball tickets because I want to go to a game. They're cheap as hell. I didn't realize that. Why is basketball like literally $17 million? Football is almost $17 million. And then Giants games were like $9. I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy.
Yeah, it all just depends because like baseball has 162 games. They have 80 plus home games, so they're not as expensive. But it also gets more expensive when your team's better. So they're not great right now. So they can't put their tickets at crazy price. Once they start getting better throughout the end, like towards the end of the season, their tickets are going to be pretty pricey.
Go up. Okay. Are they going to be good this year?
Based off of what
I guess they won. Look, everyone's freaking out. Giants won. Giants won and Marco tapped out.
Nah, they're in like 6th inning.
Go to the Dodgers game? When are the Dodgers
I don't think they win it. Dodgers game.
I'm just waiting for Marco's connection.
They're going to go with Giants.
This is because seating capacity. A little Giants will win. People are excited. I was gonna close it out, but I wanted Marco to come back before hockey. My dad was a big hockey fan. He liked the Sharks growing up, but I haven't followed them. Hi, Marco.
You see me now?
Back?
I'm back. Are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
We're here.
Yeah. So I was able to hear everything you were saying, which is kind of weird that you can see me or hear me.
Perfect.
But I went to my first hockey game on Monday.
They beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, they hit each other pretty hard. It's kind of crazy. Like, I don't know how they do it, how they stay on the ice skate. I can't even skate. So, but yeah, I know you were trying to close out the show.
Who's the biggest rivalry for the Giants?
Dodgers. So if you want to go to a good game in the Bay, that's usually the most intense games. Probably the most rowdy. You'll see the fan base. My in-laws and everyone, they're all Dodgers fans. So.
Ooh. Okay, that's good to know because I want to go to a game. I want to go to a game this year. I want to learn about baseball, and I don't know. I guess I would call her my godparents. When I was a kid on my mom's side of the family, because my parents were broken up, my mom was a crazy person, and so my sister and I lived with our babysitter. Like growing up, like she wasn't like a babysitter. We like spent the night there for like multiple months. But she loves that I do this. I would call them like my basically. Like,
actually, have you ever been to a hockey game?
Siblings. I've never.
Someone's trying to ask you to a game.
I've never been to a hockey game, but my dad is a big Sharks fan. But what I was gonna say, they were huge sports fans. Marco's just dying over here. I had an older. They had Robbie and Casey, which were their children, but like I said, we lived there. Casey had like giant Jerry Rice posters, Joe Montana posters, like all over a room, and then they used to always have the Giants playing. This was during like Barry Bonds steroid era, and they used to just be like screaming in the living room, like that shit was crazy. And then everyone was like, "Oh, he did steroids." I don't know. Didn't everyone do steroids? Yeah. Some people are so sticklers. Some people are like, "Oh, he can't be in the Hall of Fame because of that." But then, like everyone else also was. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, everyone who does steroids is in the Hall of Fame.
I need to know my full history before speaking too much on that. But I'm glad that I got to throw that last minute topic on you. And I think we worked out the kinks. I think in the beginning it was a little weird, but then throughout the show it cleared up. And right now it looks perfect. But we're gonna close it out.
Perfect. Perfect timing.
Bye, guys.
All right, see y'all later.
Bye, guys. Everyone, make sure to like and subscribe to Marco's channel, Clutching Sports. Make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll have a show, I think a call in this weekend, and then on Monday I'll be back with Steph. We can talk more about draft and stuff. Maybe I can ask her if she thinks Marco and I's prediction that they might end up going defense that first round is correct. But yeah, everyone let us know in the comments if you think that they need to stick with the O-line or if they could be drafting a cornerback. Argue about George Kittle versus Brendan Aiyuk, all that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Like I said, I know I had a couple out there topics, but I had a really good time. Bye, guys.